Hi, welcome to my show. Today, my guest is Violet St. Karl, and she is an author. Her book is coming out
January 11th.
January 11th, and she's also co-ambassador with myself for the Authors Guild of America. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, I am so excited about your book. I know we talked about this quite a bit, and it's finally coming out, but it's also available right now for pre-order.
Yes, it's available for pre-order on Amazon right now. So if you go to Amazon and do a search for Violet St. Karl or Collection of the Negatives.
And I'll show you, yes, collect
it. Should come up, yep. And that is the cover right there.
As science fiction, is it?
It is. It's science fiction. It's based on blood types, specifically the Rh negative blood type. And it's an alternate version of our current world where inflation rates and unemployment rates have skyrocketed and people resort to selling their blood for money. So the more rare your blood type is, the more money you get when you sell it.
Okay, so I guess with that being said, Violet offered to use me as a guinea pig.
Yes.
Well, first you asked if I know my blood type.
Yeah, and you didn't. Yeah, so I thought it'd be really fun.
Is this really, is this the case with most people? I hope.
Yes, I would say in my travels, the majority of Americans don't know their blood type.
Okay.
Unless they're in the military.
Okay.
Then they usually know their blood type, yes.
And it's, so this kit, I know you've already taken it apart, but
yes.
you have one that you didn't open up yet.
Yes. So it's a kit. It comes with a lancet.
Yeah, okay.
Should I turn it this way?
Yeah.
So it comes with a lancet, a little card, some plastic mixers. And what I do is just prick your finger, or you could prick your finger.
Okay.
And then we take the drops of blood, mix it within the circles, and then look at the guide and see what your blood type is. And who knows, you may be the negative. So in this world, you could go home with some cash.
Okay, so here I am,
Yeah.
trusting Violet
Yeah.
to do a blood type.
So yes, I am not a medical doctor. I'm not in the medical field. This does not take the place of taking a proper test at your physician's office. But what you can do just to get the blood flowing into your hands, so rub your hands facing down, for about 30 to 60 seconds. And then I will prepare the cotton swab, so we're sanitary here. So rub.
This is too much work.
I know. Sorry, I'm making you work today. While you rub, I'm going to take some water, put it into the little circles so the solution mixes with your blood.
How long does this process usually take, the whole thing?
Oh, a minute.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's fairly quick.
Okay, so this is fun.
Yeah. So, should be good.
Okay.
We'll use your middle finger. So clean it off. And then use this lancet here. Just going to do a little prick. Okay. Just squeeze it down. Yep.
Oh.
I know, right? Yeah. It starts coming out. And we just take a little bit of your blood there. Mix here for your control.
I don't know. Let me see if people can actually see what you're doing.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think the camera is.
Yeah.
It's all right. We'll show them once it dries.
Yes.
The results.
Actually, now, yes. I actually got it in a position that they can see better.
Okay. So then we mix one of the other circles. I spent a couple years researching blood types.
Was it for this book?
Yeah. Because,
really?
And blood types overall I found to be very interesting because there were aspects of it that sounded like science fiction, but was not. And for example, a woman who procreates with a man of a positive blood type and she's a negative blood type, in today's day and age, will receive a ROGAM shot. So her body does not reject the fetus because if if the blood of the mother and the child mix and they're incompatible, the mother's body then creates antibodies and tries to attack the fetus. And I was like, that sounds like science fiction. But it was science. And I thought that was really interesting. And that was one of the reasons why I started exploring and researching blood types more and went along with the story in my head. And
yes, well, come to think of that, what you just said, I do know quite a few people that have had that situation. And I, too, found it very fascinating that how does that happen like that?
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit how this, a little bit maybe about your characters or the settings that take place in the story.
So the character is of Albanian descent. She's in New York. She works for a global news publication.
Now, wait a minute. Does this sound at all similar to some of your characteristics?
I know, right? Yeah. It was easy just to take some of my backstory and incorporate it, or just completely add other different elements of my imagination into
and
her
that brings us a
backstory.
little bit about your backstory. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and, how that's similar, the character, with regards to New York? Because obviously you are living in Michigan right now.
Yes. I'm of Albanian descent, and I moved to New York literally like a few days after the new year in 2006, and I spent over a decade there working in different facets of the digital media, marketing, advertising world. I also worked for a financial newspaper where I got a lot of inspiration. I worked for a financial newspaper during the financial market crash back during 2007 and 2009. And it was a really interesting place to be because we had financial firms and companies such as Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns who disappeared overnight. And no one could ever fathom that, a year prior or even come up with that scenario. And, life's precarious. You never know what's happening. And I thought, okay, well, what if this happened again? And, it was even worse the second time around than the first time around. What would happen? What would that look like? And that's where I got a lot of my inspiration for this story as well. Because in New York, you could look out your window and you could see people who spent their entire career at a financial firm walking away with boxes. And essentially, that's what my character does as well.
So there was a lot of inspiration from New York. You were there for 10 years, and then you returned to Michigan toward the end of 2016. So
yes, at the very end of 2016, around Christmas. Family reasons brought me back, and I'm glad to be back in the Detroit area.
So did you write the book in New York for the most part?
I actually started writing the novel when I was in Barcelona. I spent some time in Barcelona in 2013, and it was, I guess, the final nudge from the universe to start writing, as I like to say, because my apartment I lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan for about 4 years, and I was unaware at the time when signing my lease that it was the location of Edgar Allan Poe's former farmhouse where he started writing The Raven. And some people believe that Edgar Allan Poe is the godfather of science fiction in the United States. And I had the idea about this story in my head prior to that, but I didn't give writing much attention. I worked in the advertising digital media world, and that's what had my attention about 40 to 50 hours a week. And about a year and a half later, I went to Barcelona, spent about a month and a half in Barcelona, and I was talking with my flatmate in Barcelona. She was asking me what I'm doing, and she told me that the flat belonged to a famous writer, and the room that I was renting was where she passed away. And I thought, okay, coincidence doesn't happen twice. How do I end up in the residences of dead famous authors? And at that time, I had the entire story of not just collection of the negatives, but the series The Blood Rising was in my head, and I thought it was a good time that I start writing it down. So I started writing Barcelona.
So, and how long did it take you to develop the story to finishing it? Because as you know, I'm involved, aside from the Authors Guild, but I'm involved in many literary communities, including being vice president of Detroit Working Writers. And so I often come across a lot of emerging writers who, this is the question with regards to time, how long does something take? And everybody has their own story, but what's your story?
So I was off and on writing for about 2 years, and I didn't finish the book. So it was 2 years off and on. I was about halfway, maybe 3/4 the way through. And then when I returned to Michigan in 2016, I had completed my book in its entirety. So I dedicated about 3 months to finishing it. So total 2.5 years off and on. And now I would say it would take me about a year to complete a book. And that's going through multiple edits and changes and whatnot. And before I didn't dedicate enough time because I was also still managing a pretty stressful career at that moment in my life. So writing kind of took a backseat and would squeeze in whenever it would fit. But what I've learned is you really need to set time for yourself. And you hear about writer's block, and people always ask me, as a writer, do you need inspiration? And I would, yes, I guess so. But your inspiration came from somewhere to start writing. You were already inspired, and the writing blocks are just, I think, you not wanting to write because you just think it's going to be awful writing. But at the end of the day, once you start writing, it'll get better. Even if you have to go back and delete it all, it still took you somewhere. So it wasn't lost time.
That's very true. I completely agree with that. I also feel that this idea of when you're inspired, I do believe that in some cases, if you get a certain amount done, or if you feel like you've gotten your stuff and you need to maybe step back, that's a different story. But initially trying to put, especially the first draft, yesterday I went to the gym.
Well, I'm glad you made it there.
Exhausted.
I didn't.
I normally do my walks outside. Otherwise, I'll do yoga. But yesterday, I because of the sidewalks were slippery, so I took my son to his basketball, and then I went upstairs to the gym, and I was like, I'm exhausted. I felt like there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And then the treadmill started going, and and I usually read when I do this, and then it's like, I started noticing within 5 minutes into it, and that was the worst part, because it's like you're thinking, okay, you have 50 minutes to go and that much to go. But really, something starts happening where you start shifting and going from feeling that tired, then all of a sudden you're on that treadmill and it's going, and then you have a time frame because out of habit you're used to it, which I'm usually used to doing a 1 hour walk. And really, with writing, it's the same thing. So if I wait for inspiration to get on the treadmill, it's not going to happen.
Oh, no. You're not going to tone up. You're not going to lose weight.
To get on the treadmill. No. But and the same thing with writing, when you sit behind your computer or when you grab that pen and paper and give yourself that hour. And even if you sit kind of in blank, or just even the fact of trying, sometimes even the words, when they don't come out, but really it does sink in, and it does show up sometimes later when you don't expect it, or the next day when you go for that 1 hour. So I totally agree with that. And also you feeling that the next time around it's going to be different, that's because you now have an idea. I'm sure it's just harder to push through the first time. You probably
Definitely
had no idea where you were going, or the time frame, or maybe you underestimated how much work
completely.
it was going to be.
I say it's a thin line between creativity and madness. And I was probably foaming at the mouth when I started this journey 6 years ago, because I didn't fully realize everything that incorporates being a writer and all the obstacles. But I think that's also what gives you character, what helps you with your writing as well. I mean, my first draft of Collection and the Negatives, you wouldn't be able to recognize it in comparison to the finished, complete manuscript and book today.
So then that would be the next question. So you said that the first draft, you wouldn't be able to recognize it. And
oh my God, I hope to God no one ever reads it.
This is the case. Well, it might be one day used, to teach a lot, to teach a course before and after. So what helped you develop the book? I've worked with editors all my life. I love working with editors. I respect them very much. I know some people have certain ideas or situations, but myself, I feel it's a growing process, and it's like having a coach. Again, going back to the gym, it's the same thing. You are having somebody who is trying to get the best out of you in that area, trying to help you, physically look better, trying to help your writing be better. You don't have to take every single thing that they give.
Absolutely.
But for me, agents, editors, anybody in that area was really helped me. And also, I'd like you, after you answer that question, to see how was your writing as a financial, what was it, a financial advice or?
No, I worked for a financial newspaper on the advertising side, yes.
Oh, on the advertising. Yeah, so it just kind of went from, so it seemed that that's not as creative, but then I think any type of connection with the writing world helps you develop, even if it's your creative book.
I would say what helped me a lot, and I'm very thankful and grateful for them, are beta readers. And your beta readers could be family, friends, colleagues, people you meet on the street. I would literally meet people and they would ask what I do, and I would tell them I write. And then I would just politely ask, like, would you be interested in being a beta reader and give me, feedback and critique in the manuscript? And people who love to read really jump at that opportunity. And I had both males and females. I had people who told me they don't like science fiction read my manuscript and were like, oh my God, I think I actually like science fiction now.
So basically, Violet is the kind of person, if she catches you on the street, she's going to make you work, but you're going to be happy afterwards because it's like a good book. It's good because you make people read.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I say sometimes, and I come from a big family, and culturally I joke and I say we're quicker to give an insult than we are with, a compliment to our family, and I love my family. But my cousin's an avid reader. And
are you sure you're not Chaldean? Or Middle Eastern?
No, but I think, Eastern European,
yeah, it sounds kind of similar.
So my cousin was asking me, after multiple times, she was like, let me read your manuscript. And I was like, oh my God, she's an avid reader. And it's so close to you, and it's very personal. And I feel sometimes very raw when I give it to someone that knows me.
Yeah.
Because now that's like you have, this magnifying glass into my head and looking the way my brain works and the thoughts.
That. Yeah, it is easier for a stranger, like an editor, to hire somebody that doesn't know you on a personal level. That is much easier than having somebody that knows you, go and see that.
So I was like nervous about it, and I was like, oh God, and I always appreciate, constructive criticism because I always want to improve, become a better writer. But you're, with family, you're like, oh my gosh, it's really close. And so my cousin, after 2 days, sends me a text message, and she's like, oh my God, I couldn't put it down. I read it in a day and a half. She said, no offense, but I'm actually surprised that you wrote something this good.
That must be very special because you go in with that fear because of you feel like it's revealing a side of you that the family doesn't know. But it is very special when that happens. I know recently that happened. One of my nieces, few of my family members that read any of my books, but my niece, she actually read my book, and it was a memoir to top it off. So I was also thinking she's going to come across certain things that she wasn't probably aware. And, it was a wonderful experience at the very end when she texted me that she just finished the book and that she loved it, that the whole time she couldn't get it down, put it down. And it's a 4-part memoir series, and she said she wanted to read the second one. And it really felt I was so honored that she felt that way. I know that strangers or even friends or people I know, not necessarily strangers, but family is really, it's a different story. And especially because I did get personal, but yet it validated something, and I did feel something very special about that. But do you feel, how can a writer that say they do want to turn to family or friends, how can they get, or can they really get an objective? Like in my niece's case, although I had another niece who did help me through the process, but she was majoring in literature, and so I trusted her, and I only trusted her to see my work because I felt she could be objective. So can family and friends be objective, or what can you say to them prior to giving them a manuscript so that you can benefit better from their feedback? Yeah,
I would always ask them, tell me 3 things you liked and 3 things you didn't like. Because I think that way you can get a balanced view.
That way they're not going to just tear apart the book or just say, oh, this was all just wonderful, and, either or,
and even with my beta readers and with anyone, I always ask, what are 3 things you like? What are 3 things you didn't like? Or what are 3 things you would like to see changed or develop more? Because we keep our work so close to us sometimes that we have tunnel vision. We can't see anything in our peripheral.
Right.
And I like getting that constructive feedback, the suggestions. I may not take them all, but it allows me to step back from my work.
Yes.
And
during the revisions and
yes.
the rewrites and stuff.
Yeah.
So so this is again collection of the negatives.
Yes.
You said this is book 1 of
the Blood Rising. Yes.
So what is your vision for this? Where are you planning to go with it? How many books do you see yourself? I'm sure you don't know exactly, but what are your ideas for this?
Yeah.
Future
so
ideas?
there's 3 books in the series right now. The first one is primarily focused around the protagonist, Leary. But books 2 and 3 expand upon that, bring in other characters and other worlds. And other worlds within worlds. I know that's very vague, but...
No, I can sense what you're
yes.
saying about that, yeah.
But definitely expansion with, blood being the connector between all of the books. So the RH negative blood is the overarching element within every book in the series.
Well, I wanted to ask you also, because as co-ambassador of
yes.
the Authors Guild and given your experience in writing, what advice would you give writers that are just starting out or are struggling to complete their book?
I would say schedule time on your calendar, whether that's, on your Google Calendar, your phone calendar, schedule time on your calendar to sit down and write and commit to it.
Yes.
What I have every single week is a creative Sunday, and I commit to a creative Sunday. There's 2 hours on that Sunday where I block it out. I schedule what I'm going to do during the weekend and the weekend all around that, and I either am writing in a coffee shop or at home, and I turn everything else off, and I just focus on writing for 2 hours. And I call that a creative Sunday. So, at a minimum, if I don't have enough hours to dedicate, say I am only writing for 30 minutes today or an hour tomorrow or 15 minutes here, I know at least every single Sunday I have 2 hours that I commit to, regardless of what's happening.
And what happens, I've noticed in situations like that where myself, I usually I do write every day, but then now with just the activities that happen around the writing life.
Oh yeah,
so
life gets hard.
After you get published, there's a different
the
things that we
comes in.
Yes, we participate
yes.
in different things. But I did notice one thing, and this is the more that we write, we start kind of knowing how to utilize that time, and then the quality of those, even if it's a 2 hour a week, the quality changes so that you're really pouring your heart out. Sometimes
Definitely.
That's a very good thing too. But just having those 2 hours, words accumulate into books and into chapters and
definitely.
Books and stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention also, we are going to have our next Authors Guild meeting.
Yes.
This is going to be the second one this year.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
And I want to appreciate, thank you for the participation that you've had in putting these events together.
You, my pleasure.
It's been really fun.
Yeah, it has.
It has been fun.
I'm so glad that the Authors Guild decided to roll out 13 chapters because I was a member in New York, and when I moved to the Detroit area, I felt like I was kind of like left alone trying to figure things out, and looking for a very inclusive group was difficult.
Well, and I was very jealous of the New York members because I would constantly see these events that took place in New York, and it's like, hey, I'm a member of the Authors Guild. I've been a member for years, and I would love to attend. But, I can't just keep flying there. And so when they did that, I also thought it was a great idea. And the fact that we can use our creativity to put these meetings together. So the next one is actually December 11th. And Skyline of Southfield.
Yes, the Sky Club.
The Sky Club. They offered to host that. So we're very excited. We're having an author come in from South Carolina. Joseph, he's going to kill me, Drolshigen?
Yeah, Drolshigen.
Yes,
Yeah.
is that okay?
I think so.
He,
Sorry
he's
in
going to be the
advance.
speaker. He's an author himself, and so he's an author of a book called Life Lessons. And so that's going to be December 11th. And to find out information about that, their website, what?
So we teamed up with Michigan Leadership.
Yes.
And more information can be found at michiganleadership.com.
Yes. So hope we see you writers there. It'll be fun. It's from 5:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. They meet every month, but
it's a wonderful venue.
Month.
The people are very nice.
Yeah, we got to check it out last week.
Working with Andrew Ropp, who heads up Michigan Leadership. He's awesome to work with, collaborate with. So, if you're a writer, aspiring writer, you're an author, member of the Authors Guild, we'd love to see you out there.
Yeah, well, and that brings up one other topic really quickly. We just have like a couple of minutes left. For authors, I know we addressed the writing process, but being a part of a community is very important as well.
Definitely.
And I know for myself, over 20 years, I started by being a member of the Rochester Writers Group that met once a month, and every time when it was our meeting, I knew like to bring in something to be critiqued, and so it kept my feet into that arena. And then they were my first audience, and they really helped me build confidence, and they gave great feedback. So being a part of a community is very good.
Definitely.
So regardless of where you're at, just coming in, listening, seeing how other writers and how other authors do it is really great too. So. Well, our time is up, but I'm
know.
Sure
Well, we need to see your results first.
What happened? What blood
okay,
type
let's
am I?
see.
I was trying to avoid that maybe subconsciously.
Okay, let's see. So you have these two, which makes you an A positive.
Okay. Oh, so like A+?
Yes, A+, the score that you want on a test. And
yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, that's a good blood type, right?
Yes.
That's what that means.
Yes. But in the collection of the negatives world, Leary, who's the protagonist, her friend has A positive, and he only got $100. So sorry.
Oh, so I don't get any money?
You don't get the 700 for being the rare blood type, but at least you get $100.
Oh. And I get a title of A+.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say
hey,
my
it's
blood
a score
type
we
is
always
A+.
want, right?
Thank you. That was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And I'm sure I'll have you again, because I'm sure your next book will be out very soon, right?
Yeah.
And we'll have events together, and that will be another way for us to connect and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. And again, the book right here that you can pre-order right now, and it is released January.
Yep, January 11th. You can pre-order on Amazon.com.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.